Hello there. Hello there, and thank you for joining in early. I'm Edwin Tan, your moderator for today. We're a couple of minutes away from starting the webinar proper. For those of you who are here with us now, I would like to invite you to open the Q&A window located at the bottom of your screen. Once you have done that, type in one key takeaway that you want from this session. We will try to address them either during or after the presentation. This is a benefit that we extend to early birds only. So if you are using a laptop, you can mouse over to the bottom of your screen and pull up the Q&A function. Okay, great. I think we're seeing some intended takeaways coming in right now. Excellent. Just give it a couple more minutes as we let the others join in. Pei Ying, are you able to see the questions?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Great. All right, it looks like we have quite a number of requests. And Pei Ying, let's try to address them as best as we can.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll try to reference to some of them as we go through the presentation, and then the rest that we don't get to, maybe we'll handle them at the end of the session as well.
Great, excellent. I'm sure that's fine for everyone. All right, looks like we have a good number that has joined us since, so we'll start the webinar right away. Hello again, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Edwin Tan, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar on what the future of work means for jobs and skills. This is the first of a series of webinars that Skills Future Singapore is organizing to share jobs and skills insights. And we are privileged today to have with us LinkedIn here to share with us on their perspective. So before I introduce today's speaker, I want to go through a few quick housekeeping items. If you have any questions during the presentation, please submit them via the Q&A function, and we'll do our best to get to them at the end of the presentation. You can vote for the questions that you want answered by clicking on the thumbs up icon below each question, which you'll be able to see. And if you have trouble locating the Q&A, the widget can be found at the bottom of the screen. Everyone is muted and will remain so for the duration of this session to avoid any background noises. If you experience any technical difficulties, let us know via the Q&A function and we will attend to you as soon as we can. And so with that, I would like to introduce to you the speaker for today, Chua Pei Ying, who is the Asia Pacific lead for LinkedIn's economic graph. Bridging policy, economics, and data, Pei Ying and her team work closely with governments, public institutions, and policy influencers to identify opportunities and insights to address the challenges of the modern workforce. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Pei Ying to get this presentation started. Pei Ying, please.
Okay, great. Thanks, Edwin, for the kind introduction. Hi everyone, my name is Pei Ying. I'm from LinkedIn, and today I'll be sharing a bit more about our perspective on the future of work and what it means for jobs and skills. So thank you all for joining this call on a nice Thursday morning. I'll just get started on it. All right, so I'll give a quick introduction to LinkedIn's vision and why we do what we do. So LinkedIn's vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. So there are a few keywords here. One of the keywords here is global workforce, which is because LinkedIn is a global platform and we span across more than 100 countries. And we want to be able to use the data that we have on the platform to help inform labor market and to help create economic opportunity for everyone. So what exactly is the economic graph? Basically, the economic graph is a term for what we call all the data on LinkedIn's platform. It maps out across our 645 members, which countries, which companies they are in, which jobs they are taking, what type of skills they have, and the schools that they come from, as well as the knowledge that they share on the platform. So all these put together creates a very strong network of information that tells us about the economic movements. Using this information, we are then able to do various types of analysis. The analysis have various aspects, including they are global, meaning we are able to compare hundreds of countries and cities. They are also granular, so there we can break this down by a person's location, or his or her industry, or his or her job function as well. Because members update their profiles in real time, so we can see what's going on as they update their profiles, and we get real-time signals of what's going on in the marketplace. And last but not least, there's a historical element to this. So we are monitoring the data patterns over time, so we can see trends such as migrations and hiring rates. Using all of this data, we then try to create projects and try to create information that's able to inform what's happening in the labor market. Some of the things that we do in order to share this information around are publicly available data sets. So we have this data set that's built in collaboration with the World Bank. And what we show is that we show the industries that are growing and the skills that are in demand across various industries. This data set is publicly available. It's completely free. And I will now do like a quick sharing on how to take a look at this deeper. So if you go to the website and you open it, you'll be able to see several dashboards here. The first dashboard you will see is an industry dashboard where you can pick an industry, and it will show to you what skills are needed in each industry. The way that this is calculated is that we have used a method to feature the most representative skills. So, which means that when you select any industry, what it will show you are the representative skills of that industry and not the generic skills that are applicable across different industries. So the reason why we do a representative skill is to see like, what really makes that industry unique compared to the rest of the industries. Otherwise, if you don't do this, what you may end up seeing is that skills like Microsoft Word are very common. But we all know that Microsoft Word is a normal skill that most people have. It's not a feature of a certain industry. The second part of this dashboard will show you how skills are spreading across industries and across time. So when you pick a certain skill, you will be able to see how much it's penetrated into each industry. So for example, this is the skill of development tools, and you can see in the computer software side, it has the penetration of development tools in the computer software industry has increased over time. So this is, and we can pick from thousands of LinkedIn skills to see how these kind of skills are spreading across many industries. For each country, we can also look at the industries that are growing and shrinking in each industry. So this is a selection for Singapore, and we are able to see the industries that are growing in Singapore as well as the industries that are shrinking. So there are ways to combine this information together so we can derive even more insights. For example, in the previous slide, I showed the different growth and shrinkages of various industries in Singapore. So you see that the internet industry grew by about 20% between 2016 to 2018. And then if we dive in deeper to look at the types of skills that are needed for the top 3 fastest growing industries in Singapore, then we will find that there's a range of skills that are needed for the internet industry, for the computer and network security industry, and also for the computer software industry. But if you take a closer look, after a closer look, we will realize that actually we only need to target 3 skill groups that can build human capital for the 3 fastest growing tech segments. So this is just an example of the types of insights that we look at as we go through the data. And this is all the data itself is publicly available. So I highly encourage people to take a closer look at it. The second part I will talk about is another study that we have done recently. It's Talent Insights on AI. What we have done here is we've looked at the top skills that AI talent possess. The first thing we've noticed is that out of the top 10 skills that AI professionals have, 7 of them are programming languages. On top of that, we find that Python is the most popular language, with about 35% of AI professionals listing it. And last but definitely not least, we see that 30% of AI professionals also list soft skills such as management, leadership, and public speaking. So this is something that we see not just in AI talent, but across many of the analysis that LinkedIn does, which is that soft skills remain highly important even as technical skills grow in popularity over time. And this is not surprising because while there are a lot of changes happening in the labor market, the soft skills are very important because they help us to navigate the uncertainty and they help us to remain agile and flexible to changes. Some additional work that we can do with the data as well is that we derive gender information and we use this to understand gender gaps across different industries. So this is the gender gap that we've observed for the AI industry, for the AI talents, and we look at it across industries. What we see is that there's a gender gap that is wider than the general gender gap in many industries. And this is seen even in industries such as education and healthcare, which are traditionally popular with female professionals. So this is another element of analysis that we do as well, and gender and equality issues are extremely important. So we do analysis to look at this and to figure out what kind of interventions can be done. So a third report that I like to highlight here is Future of Skills for APAC 2019. So this is a report that was recently released a few months ago, and it shows deep dives into various skills across various countries. So what we see here is that we've looked at rising skills, which are skills that experience the highest exponential growth. So we looked at the skills data listed by members on our platform over the last 5 years. And we calculated which skills have experienced exponential growth over these 5 years, meaning that they increase constantly at a growing rate month on month for 5 years. So these are the rising skills that we have observed. And we see that across the top rising skills, although there's a large proportion of tech skills, we also see some non-tech skills standing out, such as social media marketing and compliance skills. So what we do is we look at the types of skills that are standing out, and we also look at the examples of occupations that have these skills. For example, you can see on compliance here, there's a range of occupations that have these skills, and it ranges from data officers to compliance officers and risk management officers. So it's not just data related jobs, it's traditional jobs like compliance as well. On the social media side, you also see social media marketing is one of our rising skills. That's not surprising given the prevalence of a lot of social media platforms these days. After that, there's also continuous integration skills, which is important in the tech space as we talk about getting technologies integrated with each other. So there's a range of engineering occupations closely related to these skills. As the rest of it, there's workflow automation as well as gesture recognition technology, all of which have a range of occupations associated. Moving on, there's 5 more of these rising skills that we've observed. Blockchain and AI are the next 2. I don't think these 2 surprise anybody. There's been increasing prevalence of these skills across various industries and across various occupations. What's interesting here is on the blockchain side, you see that it's not just the developers of technology. We also have seen consultants come out to talk about blockchain and the types of occupations and industrial applications of it. So I noticed that we actually have quite a lot of questions, and I want to take some time to go through it. So maybe Edwin, should I start at the top, or how should I do this?
Oh, great. All right. Thank you, Peng, for the wonderful presentation. I guess we'll head straight into the Q&A segment. Indeed, we have a long list of questions, and we sense the active participation from our audience here. Perhaps you can go with the first one, which garnered 2 votes. It reads, how do I suppose we're talking about the institutions here, how do I prepare our students towards the future of jobs and skills? So I guess the question is, what would be LinkedIn's advice to the IHLs in how they could go about preparing their students in terms of what's to come when we talk about jobs and skills?
Right. So I'll go back to some of my previous slides. Oh, sorry. I'll go back to some of the previous slides, but I think in terms of the jobs and the future of jobs and skills, we see a huge change. We see many changes across the skills that are needed for the future workforce. But we also see stability in many skills, in especially digital literacy and soft skills. So I think if we are talking about preparing students for long-term resilience, then we cannot get away from soft skills like communication, time management, creative thinking. These are all skills that have been important in the past, and we see that they remain important. On top of that, there's also basic digital literacy skills that enables students to adapt to changes in technology. What we see is the types of precise technical skills do change very quickly. Things like Python change very quickly, and various coding skills. But the basic literacy that enables someone to pick up coding skills is still there. So I think the way to prepare students is to give them the basic skills, and then that allows them to have a strong foundation to build on.
All right, thank you, Payne. Moving on to the next question, I think there's the top question here. How is SSG working with LinkedIn to feed upon the updates to Skills Framework, excuse me, to make it relevant and a living document? I suppose I can answer this. Indeed, the intent is really to see how we can integrate some of the more dynamic jobs and skills insights partners such as LinkedIn can provide us, and it will make a lot of sense to integrate that with our Skills Framework to make it even more relevant and up to date. So that is our intent. Okay, moving on, we have a question proposed by Alvin. What are some distinctive skills, competencies that are required for the future workplace, and how will employers assess applicants for such skills and competencies? Perhaps I'll ask Payne to take this. I suppose we are coming from the angle on how employers could possibly have access to such data, which can enable them to better assess applicants. Payne, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, sure. So I think there's 2 parts of this question, right? The first one is the types of skills and competencies that are required. I think I addressed this in the earlier question. I think what we should focus, what I want to focus on now is like the second part of this, which is how to assess applicants for such skills and competencies. This is actually quite a broad question because it depends also on the type of skill and the type of skill that's being assessed for. So for example, if it's a technical skill, especially something like coding, we can assess it through a series of tests. It is a bit more difficult to assess the soft skills, but at least in my experience, what we've done to assess those is we give assignments like case studies and PowerPoint presentations. We ask them to prepare slide decks for us, and by doing so, we can assess a few things. We assess their digital literacy. We assess their ability to piece a storyline together in a slide deck. We also look at their ability to communicate and to present to a room of people. And last but not least, we see how they adapt when we throw questions their way, and we see if they are able to understand and answer the questions on the spot. So I think there's a whole range of ways to assess applicants. This is just like one of them.
Right, thank you for that. Just scrolling a bit to look at the list of questions. I'd like to pick up this question by Guai Fang. Would like to know what the future of work has in terms of the impact for education institutions. So we talked a bit about the students, and we talked a bit about employers. So what does this really mean for the IHLs?
Yeah, I think what we see is that we see rapid changes, right? And we see rapid changes in the types of jobs emerging, and also the types of skills that are required to do these jobs. What we've noticed is that while the jobs change very quickly, skills tend to remain more stable over time. And that's why as LinkedIn, we place a lot of emphasis on understanding skills, because we believe that skills are the foundation. Skills and not jobs are what define a person's ability to do something. So job titles change very quickly, and there's many different job titles for the same type of role. But the naming of skills remains more consistent over time. What I think this means for education institutions is the focus on skills rather than the focus on degree or field of studies, or even the types of jobs that people take. Right. I lost the question, but I think I hope I've answered it.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Payne. There's a related question here. In particular, among the IHLs, there was a question on how the polytechnics, right, specifically the polytechnics, can be better prepared for the future of work. Do you see any differences in how the polytechnics, compared to, say, the universities, should be approaching this?
No, I actually think, regardless of whether it's a polytechnic, university, or any other education institute, I believe like the focus is on teaching skills. And this is regardless of the degree or the fields of study. As I also mentioned earlier, the types of skills that remain highly resilient over time in the midst of all this change are the soft skills and the basic digital literacy skills that enable a person, or that enable a student or a worker to be able to pivot very quickly as the world changes.
All right, thank you. Just scrolling down a little bit. There's a question from Siu Yong. Will you be able to let us know the relevant future skills needed in the local context? Payne, I believe you shared some of this in the slides. I guess the audience would like to know a little bit more. Is there anything else that you could add on?
Yes, definitely. So we have done analysis as well. Let me just quickly go to the relevant slide here. Okay, so if you see here, we have done rising skills analysis. The results that I show here are the results for APAC, but we have also done this for various countries across the APAC region, including Singapore, Australia, and many other places. So I'll just verbally share some of the rising skills that we observed for Singapore specifically. The top skills that we saw were blockchain, workflow, automation, and design. And we've also observed, we've studied skills across various countries. These, for Singapore, the ones we found were blockchain, workforce automation, and human-centered design. And in various other places across Asia, we see slightly different skills that are important, that are rising over time. What I can do is that after this presentation, Edwin, are you going to circulate documents?
Yes. We're going to
okay, I can attach that report. I can send you that report as well, so that you can forward it to the participants.
Great. We'll do that. Yeah. Great. Okay. Just looking through the questions. Ping, if you spot any questions that you would like to jump in to answer, feel free to go ahead.
Okay, I'm just scrolling now. I haven't looked at it yet, but there's a lot of questions.
Okay.
Let me see. Sorry, my mouse has gone away. Okay, show down the. Okay, I think there's a question here from P. Chong. Could you share if drilling down the occupations is possible in connection to the top skills? So I believe what this is asking is how do we find the top skills that are required for various occupations? So yes, we do that for LinkedIn. There are various ways that we have done this study, and one of them is through a product that we have called LinkedIn Talent Insights, where we're able to study an individual occupation and see what skills are top for that. So again, Edwin, I can attach the relevant information to you as well.
Great, that'll be good. All right, excellent. Okay, we have a question from Elvin. Picked up 3 votes. The one on top. If soft skills are so important, can IHLs be doing anything to measure or document students' competencies in this area? And then how do we augment this apart from the traditional transcript and GPA that reflects mostly on academic abilities? Do you have a response to that, Pei?
Yeah, this is actually a very good question. I think it's quite a challenging question to answer as well. I mean, I'm not an educator myself, right? So I'm not very familiar with transcripts and how they are calculated or documented. What I'll say is like that I believe I believe different universities and different education institutes do this in various ways, including project work that ultimately feeds into a final grade, and also industry attachments and even like overseas attachments, internships, things like that to help to train up the soft skills. So I think it's there are parts of it embedded. There's definitely ways of doing this better, but it's not an easy problem, because a soft skill is inherently very difficult to measure on its own.
I suppose LinkedIn's data would shed some light on soft skills as well, right? So I guess the crux here is how do we go about measuring or observing such skills, right? Would you agree, Pei?
Yeah, that's right. So on the LinkedIn platform, you'll notice that we have something called endorsements, which means that anybody can endorse me for a skill. So if they believe that I have good communication skills, they can go and uptick me for a communication skill. So, everybody in this room also, please, you are very welcome to come to my LinkedIn profile and endorse me for many skills, including presentation and communication skills.
Yep, we'll do that.
So this is one of the ways that we do it. But I think in terms of concrete measurements, especially for IHLs, it's embedded within the results of project work and industry attachment reviews. but there's definitely always room for improvement.
Right, thank you. There's a question from Anna, the second one. How do we help our workforce to gain confidence in tackling transformational workplaces? So we're extending this quite a bit more broadly, right? At a workplace, how could we better prepare our workforce to have that confidence, right? To adapt to some of these changes that are taking place relentlessly.
Yes. So yeah, the workforce is, okay, I've lost the question again. Hang on. Okay, so the workforce has changed. It is still changing very quickly. I think it depends on who the we here is. So for example, if if we are talking to how do companies and managers help employees to gain confidence in addressing the rapid changes, then I think it's firstly about providing them with the appropriate trainings that are needed, and then also empowering them to take time away from work to focus on training, and finally also empowering them to use those new skills in a new capacity while providing guidance along the way. If we are talking from education institutes perspective, then I think it goes beyond, gaining confidence goes beyond classroom learning. There's an element of teaching someone a new skill or some new abilities within the classroom, combining that with attachments externally, industry attachments, internships, or even short projects that help them to use the skills and therefore gain confidence in them over time. And I'll point to even things like CSR and voluntary work. There are many organizations out there that need different types of skills. There's non-profits that need people to help build websites. There's or help raise funds or help with marketing. So depending on what kind of training this person is undergoing, these are also opportunities for them to not only practice the skill, but also contribute back to society.
All right, thank you. There's one question from Jian Chang. I guess I can take this question. The question is asking about the current design of skills framework, that job roles are changing faster than skills, and whether we are going to make any changes to how, I suppose, how end users, how they apply or use the skills framework. Well, I suppose the skills framework, it's a live document, right? It's constantly being updated to ensure that it stays relevant, right? So you're absolutely right that job roles are constantly merging, new job roles are coming up, new skills are coming up, skills are being combined across job roles, etc. So that is also what our intent, right, under this new thrust to put out jobs and skills insights to end users out there. It's to really raise awareness among them that some of these things are happening, to be able to capture this information, curate them in a proper manner, and so that we can then put this information and intel out to different end users, right? Be it individuals, training providers, enterprises, or even policymakers, to enable them to make a more well-informed decision. So this is work in progress, and we thank you very much, Jian Chang, for your feedback. Okay, let's see. Okay, there's a question from Dr. Joel. I think this is kind of related to what PM said during a National Day rally. Wonder whether this session will cover future of work with respect to the increased retirement age of our workforce. Peng, do you have anything to especially to highlight in terms of how we can better help the older workers, right, to be more prepared and to work longer if they choose to?
Yeah. So so there's several elements to this, right? As a worker, there's the skills element, and then there's also the expertise in I'll call it contextual expertise here, which is when someone works in a company or in an industry for a very long time, they develop areas of expertise that, or even areas of things like networks that cannot be taught in school, or that cannot be taught through courses. And I think this is where there is a huge synergy here between the more mature workforce and the younger incoming workforce, because there are things that everybody can learn from each other, and there are also things that take time to build, including relationships and networks, and also contextual knowledge about how a company or how a certain industry works. So I think this is one way that I see this playing out in the future.
All right, thank you for that. We have a question from Lynn. I think Payne, you should definitely answer this. How can we enable our students to better showcase their skills using the LinkedIn platform?
Yeah, okay. So using the LinkedIn platform to showcase skills, there are various ways of doing this. The first one is in listing down the skills that you have directly. There's also writing short descriptions, either of your previous projects, or of your experiences, or your interests. And on top of posting things on your profile, you can also create and post articles. So for example, if you have done a study on some kind of data analysis, you can write it up and post your results there. It's a way to feature your work so that people can not only see what you have done, but look at the skills that you've shown, including the ability to write and convey information.
Okay. Right, thank you. There are a pair of related questions here, one from Suzette and the other one from Hinwa. What are some tools that we can use to determine future skills? And does LinkedIn have any kind of skills assessment tools?
Okay, so in terms of skills assessments, so LinkedIn is a professional networking site, and most people's connections are going to be people that you know. Therefore, it's very valuable to get skill endorsements from these people. On top of skill endorsements, there are also written testimonials that people can write for you in order to endorse you for your skills, or to endorse you professionally. We also, we are also very aware that given that it's a professional networking site, and a lot of this information is driven by the members, there's opportunity for people to game this system. For example, for someone to create 100 profiles and to endorse himself or herself over and over again. But we have advanced tools in the trust and safety team that help to detect these kind of fraudulent behaviors and either block or even cancel them out.
Right. Great, thank you. There's a question from Hui Ling here. Just start moving a bit. Okay, Hui Ling. In your opinion, how pertinent or important it is for IHLs to prepare students for global mobility, or should this be left to individuals? Well, I guess this is a question about ownership. Could be slightly, it's a broad question. I'm wondering whether Payne, you have any views on this?
Yeah, so I think this is my perspective, having looked at this for a while, right? It is important that educators or IHLs help to guide and help to seed at least directionally where students should be going. But I think to like set them up for success and help them along the way. But ultimately, students are only enrolled at the school for 2, 3, 4 years, and after that it's up to the individual. So as part of the preparations that IHLs can do, they can try to instill in them the proper skills that will help them be more resilient over time, as well as the proper values. Ultimately, at the end, it's up to individuals on how they take those learnings and proceed.
All right. I think we have time for just one more question, right? So I'll pick this one up from Dr. Joel. Do you see a trend whereby skills from sunset industries can be reprofiled or reskilled for emerging and growing industries in Singapore? It looks like a tough question. I'll let Pei Ying answer this.
Yeah. So I think there's definitely a trend where skills can be repurposed and used for different industries. So I'll give an example of the news and print media industry, the physical news and print media industry is becoming less popular over time. But together with that, there is the rise of the digital print media, which leverages a lot of very similar skills in terms of writing, in terms of graphics. There's a whole digital print media industry out there that requires very similar skills, and I think it also uses the same foundational skills, and that's why I think there's a lot of opportunity for emerging industries to tap on the skills that the existing industries have.
All right, so just to add on to that, I suppose it will also be SSG's role to come in to advise, right, how people could go about repurposing their jobs, right, to be more relevant. So on that, there will be that larger jobs and skills agenda that will be coming to the IHLs to discuss a bit more, right? All right, thank you for all the questions. And all right, I guess that's all the time we have for the Q&A. For the questions that we didn't get to answer, we will try to reach out to you separately. Alternatively, you can connect directly with Pei Ying via LinkedIn to get your questions answered. She'll be more than happy to do so. And should you need to refer to the webinar recording or to the presentation deck, you'll be able to find them on my SkillsFuture portal and LinkedIn over the next couple of days. And just one final note, when you leave and exit the webinar, you'll be asked to provide your feedback on today's session. We appreciate a couple of minutes of your time to let us know how you find the session and how we can improve. And with that, thank you all for joining us today. We hope to see you soon at our next webinar session in September. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.